Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here from Things That Matter. And of course, I'm also here with the one, the great, the fantastic, the immortalised, the brilliant, the genius, the one and only... Oh God, Avery, I've run out of frigging things to say about you, mate. But however, they're all true. I know they are.
You've been hit with a thesaurus again, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah.
I should start to behave myself, really.
Yeah. Wind back on the superlatives. I don't need them.
Because, well, you might just think of yourself in the same way that I do, which is just what I just said, And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
That's good. And so we are going to discuss politics and whether people say the truth or not. And we've got a few clips from our friend Mr. Jones and Mr. Murray today to also talk about some comments they've made about the US election, which fascinates me no end because I just wonder what in the hell they're talking about half the time. But you had something you wanted to say about what's happened here in South Australia in recent times.
Oh, yeah. It also applies to what's going on in the United States. There was a discussion I was involved in this morning on Facebook where somebody accused Premier Marshall of lying. It turned out that I asked what was the lie, and in an ABC thing this morning, Marshall said that this guy in the Woodville pizza shop had bought a pizza, when in actual fact the guy worked in the pizza shop and he'd made it. And this person on Facebook accused Marshall of lying, and it seems clear to me that he doesn't understand what makes something a lie. And I think there's a lot of people who don't understand what makes something a lie. A lie is when you say something that you know to be false, but you say it anyway. And if you're going to accuse somebody of lying, you've got to be able to prove that they had an intent to deceive the person they were talking to. And in this case this morning, this guy cannot prove it. He stated an opinion, which he's entitled to do. If he'd said, I think Marshall was lying, he'd have been fined. But he didn't. He outright accused him of lying, and he's completely unable to back that statement up. If he'd had a video of Marshall a couple of days ago saying that that this guy had worked in the pizza shop, in the kitchen making the pizzas, and then today he says he bought the pizza, now you can say, well, look, here's my evidence that he lied. He knew that he worked in a shop, and here he is saying that he bought the pizza.
I guess if you're offering counter evidence to what was presented, is there any need to call the person a liar at all? Wouldn't people just make the assessment that whatever the person told you, based on the facts, it just was not true? You don't have to say that person is a liar, because in actual fact they might have had another set of facts.
They may well have
supported.
What Marshall said, he may, if you believe something to be true. If you sincerely believe something to be true, even if it's false, that does not make it a lie when you say this, because you sincerely believe that it's true. But if somebody knowingly...
But that doesn't make you a liar, though, does it?
Not in that case, no. You're a liar when you say something that you know is false.
Yeah.
Right? When if I say the sky is green, I know that is not true. If I say it's green, I'm lying about it. It's not. That's not a serious lie, because it's not going to have a major impact on people. But if I say, this fellow this morning, his point was, he had a fair point, right? But it's the way he presented it. What he should have said is, what he said to me afterwards was that the guy worked in the pizza shop. He made the pizzas, and there was the risk that he'd sold other pizzas to other people and passed COVID on to them. That's a fair comment, right? That still doesn't mean that Marshall lied, right? He just and in a case like that, um, Marshall's saying that the guy bought it there. He still, unless he knew that the person concerned worked in the pizza shop making pizzas, unless he knew that, then he wasn't lying. But he could certainly be mistaken.
Yes, exactly. And so you can be mistaken if you have another set of facts that are not necessarily, as it turned out, to be the real facts.
Well, yeah. If it's not
Yep.
true, it's not a fact. Right.
No,
So
no.
you've got an alternative belief, shall we say? You believe that this is true.
Alternate. Oh, I'm just thinking of Kellyanne Conway then.
Yeah.
So
Kellyanne
can we
Conway-
have alternate? Can we have alternate facts?
No, you can't. A fact is a fact, and it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. Right?
Can we have contradictory facts?
Can you have contradictory facts? That's a good question.
So you have two sets of people that have a set of facts that they believe are true based on their own analysis or research or whatever it is they do, and can you have another group of people with a different, varying set of facts, or if they're varying in that degree, are they just beliefs?
No,
Do you know what I mean?
I would say they're beliefs, because the truth is what you can show to be true. The fact is what you can show to be true. If I say the sky is green, if I can't show you that the sky is green, then I'm not stating a fact. I'm stating something absurd. I cannot show it to be true.
So
Right?
if a person, Avery, if a person believes that they had an illness and that somehow they were healed from that illness and they believed that was praying to God, and can that then become their fact?
Only if they can demonstrate a causal connection between their prayer and their healing.
Well, they didn't go. They didn't go and see a doctor, for example, and they
Doesn't
prayed
matter.
and they healed. They were healed.
Doesn't matter. They've still got to be able to show a causal connection between the prayer and them getting better.
What could the causal connection be?
That's up to them to describe it and prove it. I don't know what the causal connection could be, because I don't believe there is a God anywhere.
Well, the causal. I know you don't. So I'm just teasing. Ho ho. But is it possible for them to believe that there is a causal connection, even if you don't see it as the same cause?
Yeah. People pray, right, and they get better, and they attribute it to the prayer and to the God that they prayed to, but they believe it, but they cannot prove it. They cannot say, this is how my prayer influenced that God to make this change in my body to cure me of that disease. They cannot demonstrate it.
Could they demonstrate it if they were able to prove that it was a change in their belief that brought about whatever it was that it brought about?
It's still belief. It's not knowledge. There's a difference between belief and knowledge, right? People believe all sorts of people can and do believe all sorts of things, but knowledge is something that you can demonstrate. Right? I can demonstrate the sky is blue. I can demonstrate why the sky is blue. Right? I can show you the diffraction of the sunlight coming through and scattering all the other colors, so that the only color we see is blue. I can demonstrate that.
So you're saying that
Demonstrate to me that a prayer worked.
So the only way that you would believe something is that if there is scientific proof.
Yeah, you've got to be able
Is
to
that what
prove.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Right.
I am an empiricist. I'm also what they call an epistivist.
No need to insult. No need to insult yourself like that, Avery. Completely unnecessary.
I'm proud to be apistivist. I don't take anything on faith.
You don't take the piss out of people either, do you?
I don't do that either.
Is that what an episcopist is?
An apistivist.
We've got to clarify this word, Avery, because it's getting me confused.
An apistivist is a person who does not take something on faith. I don't accept something as true just because somebody says it is true.
All right.
I certainly don't accept it because an old book says it is true.
All right. So do you believe that you love your wife?
Yes.
How do you scientifically prove that?
You can't.
Is it, well, then you don't love your wife.
Yes, I do.
Then how do you prove that?
No, you can't. We can go around in circles with this one. You're not talking about something real, physically real.
Oh, I'm not talking. Oh, right. So I'm not talking about anything that's tangible.
Yeah. Does my wife love me? Yes. How do I know? Because she demonstrates it to me.
But it's not through any scientific fact, though. Is it?
But it's through. I've now got 14 and a half, nearly 15 years of experience of her demonstrating her love for me. She's got 14 and a half, nearly 15 years of me demonstrating my love for her.
So love may not be scientific, but it can be a fact because you believe it's true because she demonstrates it to you.
Because it's demonstrated.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm leaving my argument at that point because I feel like I won it. But that's okay.
That's your opinion.
We can move. That's right. Because that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But we can move on to things that are even more exciting. So you're saying, back to this argument you were having with this guy about lying. So at the end of the day, you would argue that Marshall wasn't lying.
He was mistaken.
He was mistaken. That's the point. That's
until somebody demonstrates that Marshall knew that the guy worked in there.
Yeah.
And made the pizzas. Until that happens, I will say that Marshall was mistaken, not lying.
So,
and sorry, you asked earlier on, can you call him a liar? If somebody tells a lie, they're a liar. That doesn't mean
they're lying.
Yeah,
but a liar means that you're lying. Kind of, that's a label that says you're doing that all the time.
No,
if you're given a label, you're like if I'm. If I'm, I don't know.
Well, if an
example,
take Marshall. He made a mistake.
Yep.
Right. And if he knew that what he was saying was false, he's a liar. Is he a pathological liar, like a certain person currently resident in the White House? No, he's not. Right. There's no evidence that he is. There's plenty of evidence that Trump is a pathological liar. But there's no evidence that Stephen Marshall is. Calling somebody a liar when they tell a lie is a fair.
Or is it better to say in that instance you lied?
Yeah, I would say.
I have an issue with that labeling thing. You label someone as a liar. Does that mean they're always a liar? No, it doesn't. So why call them a liar?
I do have an issue with labeling people as well. I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with it. Personally, if I would have said to Marshall in that case, if I knew that he lied and I could prove that he lied, I'd say you lied. Right? I wouldn't say you're a liar.
Wouldn't you just present the alternate facts and say
I would present
facts? Because what happens then if a person is presented with an alternate fact and they then say, "Oh, okay, I agree with you."
There are no alternate facts. I would present
they're presented with another set of facts that prove that the other set of facts or whatever it was that someone had were not necessarily founded on anything substantial.
Yeah,
they were wrong.
Yeah, I would present
so maybe
I would present evidence to say what you said, Mr. Marshall, was wrong.
So maybe we should start. Maybe Avery, we should start reframing it and just say you're a wronger.
Yeah,
like instead of a liar, you're a wronger.
I'll say it again. There are no alternative facts. The facts are what you can show.
Now, hold on. Kellyanne Conway said that there are alternate facts.
Kellyanne Conway is...
And the Trump administration has been trying to convince us ever since that there are.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so funny.
Kellyanne Conway is the female version of Rowan Dean.
Oh, my God. How dare you insult Kellyanne
Conway.
But, good point. But... okay, so let's, because the other thing that interests me is that I just want people to know we have no idea where these conversations have got to go when we start, do we, Avery?
No.
I call you up 15 minutes, hey, let's do a live feed. You say, yeah, sure, what we're going to talk about. Got no freaking idea. Here we are now, 15 minutes later. We haven't even gotten to the videos yet.
No.
But why is it that, do you understand why it is that one particular party, particularly the US, and I guess this is why their politics fascinates me, is why they hold on to a view whereby Biden has now got almost 6 million votes in front, right? The largest margin ever, I think. Oh, no, that's not true. Nixon and Clinton got larger margins.
Obama got a larger margin in 2008.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I knew there were a few that had. But anyway, so he's got this large margin. He has got the Electoral College. And they're still arguing that it was and a lot of people, Republicans included, are now, from states, are now saying that the election was one of the best ever held. There are no problems, there's no evidence that there's fraud. Yet they have to insist that there is. What do you think that's all about?
That is, Trump is constitutionally, with a small c, I'm not talking about the US Constitution, he's constitutionally incapable of admitting error, admitting that he lost. He just cannot do it. His ego will not allow him to say, I lost.
Do you think he's just incontinent then?
Incontinent. Well, he's the right age to be incontinent.
Yeah, and perhaps he is.
He is incompetent. He has proven that over the years. He is the only person that I've ever heard of in the history of gambling to have bankrupted 3 casinos. Casinos are cash cows, and he managed to bankrupt 3 of them.
Yeah, it was clever.
Very clever, very smart.
Piece of work.
He opened a Trump Tower, I think it might have been Toronto, and it lasted about 4 weeks before it went bankrupt. He's been bankrupt 7, 8, 9 times, something like that. 3 of which were casinos, and nobody bankrupts a casino except for Donald John Trump.
Well, we should not talk about his specific talents in that way. Certainly very talented at making sure that the money, that whatever he gets, that he will destroy, just as his endeavour to do to the US.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but anyway, I'm interested in, if you've got a set of, we were talking about earlier about facts. So if you've got a series of facts, what drives people to lie in the way that they have around Trump in order to justify their own version of what things should be, not necessarily the facts, but the way that they would like things to be.
Okay, so you're talking about people like Lindsey Graham and Moscow Mitch McConnell. Yeah. Okay, Lindsey Graham.
Well, and also, I guess I'm saying the rest of the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just using those 2 as examples. I think for most of the Republican senators, it's fear. For most of the Republican representatives, it's fear. They are. Donald Trump has got a huge following, and I think that the likes of Graham and Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, etc., are terrified that if they turn on Trump, he will turn on them, and he will say to his supporters, do not vote for these guys. And they are out of power, and they don't want to lose power. When it's somebody like Moscow Mitch, his stated purpose when he said it when I think back in 2008 was that what he wanted to do was to pack the federal court system with conservative Christian judges, with the aim of doing things like closing down Planned Parenthood, getting rid of Roe v. Wade, and things like that. So his purpose for, the way I see it, his reason for carrying on the way he does about Trump is because Trump gave him 200 plus Christian conservatives, not one black man amongst them.
But that boat sailed, hasn't it? Like, they've done all that they can in terms of stacking the courts and all that sort of crap. But that boat's kind of gone.
Yeah.
They no longer have. But then I think there is this notion that Trump will be there to influence the Republican Party for years to come.
Yeah.
But my argument's always been that, if they all as one stood up against him and declared what a clown he really was, that the rest of the world and at least half of their nation knows that he is, surely those idiots that believe him would possibly possibly reconsider their positions, would they not?
Do you mean the voters?
The
The
74,000 million of people.
72 million that voted for him?
Yeah.
I don't think that they would. The senators and the Republicans and the representatives who don't speak out against him, they're jellyfish. That's why they don't stand up against him. They've got no spine.
But how weak?
Yeah.
How weak are politicians when they, it's like these idiots we're about. Oh, sorry, we've just declared we're not calling people names, haven't we? So
Yeah.
these gentlemen that we're about to play, who are clearly intelligent human beings, they represent themselves as intelligent human beings. Why do they believe what they do about the politics not only in this country but in the US? Why do people sit so rigidly to the right? I know that there are people that sit rigidly to the left, but I must confess I do have trouble critiquing people like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And I guess that is because, to be fair, that's because their views are very much like mine, I guess. But I do have trouble, if I see somebody that's doing or saying something that's really stupid, like, do you ever watch the Young Turks?
Sometimes.
Yeah, well, Cenk Uygur gives me the shits. Yet he's a progressive, extremely left-wing, but I find him too aggressive in some of the things that he says. And unreasonable and kind of like a bully.
Yeah.
So I'll make a stand against that stuff. And if I see it on the left, I'll call it out as well.
Yeah.
But mostly we tend to see it on the right. And I don't, I just wonder sometimes whether I'm all that balanced, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I find it hard to criticize somebody like Bernie Sanders or AOC for wanting to do things like provide everybody with free public health care. I mean, what is wrong with providing health care for all at either free or very low cost? I don't see an issue with that. The Republicans see an issue because they receive a lot of money from the health insurance providers. Some of the Democrats get money from the health insurance providers, but the bulk of the support that the health insurance companies give to the U.S. House of Reps and the Senate is to Republicans, and they want that money because they want to stay in power. Yep. And so they're going to support the health insurance companies.
Yeah, of course they do. So
I don't see anything wrong with saying there should be a minimum wage for every person in the United States or every person in Australia.
Isn't it, Jill? What's their minimum wage at the moment? $6 an hour, is it, or something?
It depends upon the state, but somewhere between $6 and $9 an hour.
Isn't that atrocious?
There's a couple of states which are a bit more progressive where it's about $12. Bernie Sanders wanted to bring it up to $15.50 or something like that.
Yeah, and I think Biden said the same. So he's adopted that policy as well.
If you translate at today's exchange rate, $15 into Australian dollars, that comes up somewhere around the minimum wage that we have here.
All right, I haven't thought of doing that. Good point. That's why you're on this program, mate, because you're the intellectual one. Yeah. So let's move on to Mr. Jones, and we'll hear what he has to say, and then we'll talk about it as we go through it. Okay?
Yep.
Interesting, isn't it? Each week we talk to the brilliant New York Post columnist Miranda Devine. Now, again, the US presidential election, this is far from over. How much more evidence of vote?
Yeah, it suddenly went dead on me.
I showed you one of the 5 attorneys from Trump's legal team who are contesting the results of the election. Her name is Sidney Powell. She's no pushover.
Oh, have you heard about this Sidney Powell woman?
Sidney Powell is a conspiracy theorist.
Is she ever?
Yeah, she is well known for that in the United States. I mean, she's known for spreading conspiracy theories by people who follow that sort of crap outside of the United States as well. She is. She has got she's got some strange ideas, shall we say?
She has. And now fancy putting her in charge, anybody with that sort of leaning in charge of your legal team. Because, what's going to happen when you start... It's like Rudy Giuliani going up in front of the court the other day, and the judge says, have you got any evidence?
Have you got any evidence of fraud? No, this is not about fraud.
That's right. And then he starts lecturing them on what it's about. And the judge is kind of, I guess, thinking, well, you're a crazy man. And he starts dreaming up all these conspiracy theories as he goes along.
Yeah. Very quickly on that, as of about an hour and a half ago, 30 cases that Trump and his supporters had put up have been finalised in the courts, and Trump lost all 30 of them.
Oh, right. Well, it's the same old case as we were talking about facts, wasn't it? If you haven't got any evidence.
Yeah, like his businesses, he's bankrupt in his businesses, and he's bankrupt in his ideas about.
And he can't even muster, amongst. I guess in lawyers are generally seen as relatively intelligent people, or otherwise you wouldn't be able to get a law degree. But he's getting around him like he's got this. This guy from Fox News that he first employed, and then he didn't like him because he came to the White House dressed a bit beshevelled, I think. And he didn't like him. He came with his wife, who's also a lawyer. Anyway, Rudy Giuliani, this Sydney woman, and these other two people are on his team.
Yeah.
It's like, employing the Three Stooges to run a legal firm.
The Three Stooges perfectly describes Trump's legal team.
Bizarre. Absolutely. Yeah. I just find the whole thing just so laughable. To think that any reasonable person would suggest that it's going to work is crazy. Back to Alan.
He said that there is substantial evidence which shows that the Dominion voting systems, that's the company that supplied the voting machines and software in the contests, states of Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, they say there is evidence of, quote, vote switching. Apparently switching the votes from one candidate to the other or deleting them is easy to do on these Dominion voting systems. Rudy Giuliani, who's leading Trump's legal team, has said they've got evidence of 100,000 ballots arriving in Detroit at 4:30 in the morning.
No, they haven't.
No, they don't. Alan Jones is... When did he say this?
This is yesterday.
It was sometime late last week that Trump's own head of cybersecurity said there is no evidence whatsoever that any of these machines that Jones is just talking about are defective and switching votes. Right? And Alan Jones obviously knows better than the than Trump's head of cybersecurity, who is in charge of the election hardware infrastructure in the United States.
Like the guy they sacked.
I think he has been sacked now, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he sacked because he told the truth.
That's right.
Yes.
So here we have Alan Jones spouting this conspiracy theory, and then they bring up Venezuela. It's really interesting that every time they want to bring up something that resembles a coup, right?
Yeah.
So Venezuela equals coup.
Yeah.
So you bring up Venezuela, no matter what context it's in.
Yeah.
I discovered that I discovered that my wife is Venezuelan. Oh, reason for divorcing them. It's just like this random excuse. So here we're doing it again. Crazy crap. Seriously.
Yeah.
So let's see what else the nice man has to say.
Every single one of them for Biden. Mr. Giuliani also says they have enough illegal...
Okay, every single one of those 100,000 votes was for Biden. That, I'm sorry, but that does fall under the category of a lie.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yep.
That there's no evidence to support that whatsoever. However, he makes it out to be the truth.
Yeah, I am sure that Alan Jones has seen the same reports that you and I have seen coming from the United States from people like Krebs, the head of the cybersecurity division in DHS. And he knows what the truth is, and he is telling a lie. He is lying.
What is... Okay, help me to understand them. What is there in this for him that would mean that he would need to have to lie about it?
The only thing I can think of is that his agenda is to have a far right wing government here in Australia. He wants to see far right wing governments. I don't mean Nazi or anything like that, but he wants to see far right wing governments here in Australia, in the United States. He'd like to see it in Canada and the UK and Germany and wherever,
But
because
why?
because he thinks that's the right and proper way that a country should be governed. Now,
Right.
he's entitled to that belief, but he's wrong.
So these people, but none of this has got to do with the economy or the well-being of our communities and people.
It definitely has nothing to do with the well-being of the community. Nothing, and it's not really the well-being of the. It's not really to do with the strength of the economy, because who is it? Take Trump's tax cut, a $2 trillion tax cut, whatever the number was. Who got the benefit of it?
Well,
95% of the people who had multiple millions of dollars. The middle class got $1,200, and starting next year, their taxes go up and up and up for the next 5 years.
But what has this got to do with people like Jones? I mean, Jones is at the end of his life, I think. You know,
The end of his career would be really good.
Older than I am. Well, I think both would be good. Oh, well, one goes with the other. If your career ends when your life ends, I reckon.
Yeah.
But okay, so I wonder whether this is about his base. So we have people like Murray, him, and this other dude. You know, all those people on Sky.
The other dude, Miranda Devine.
Miranda Devine, Gretland. You know, Peter Gretland. All these people. Peter Gremlin. But I think we have all these people who are developing a base.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you and I. We're developing a base of about 2 or 3 people. The first 2 are you and I. But you know, and I guess it's about developing an audience, is it not?
Yeah.
Or developing a lot of people that will listen to you.
With somebody like, I'm not saying this is the case, but with somebody like Miranda Devine, or Paul Murray, it might be that they push this out, then one day they stick their hands up and say, I'm going to run for Parliament.
No, heaven forbid.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're looking for that. I mean, Alan Jones has been, I think in the past, he's been offered that with the Liberal Party, and then has declined because his power base is much wider than what it would be if he was just a politician.
Yeah, but I'm just offering that as a you said, why would they be doing this? And there's a possibility. Like Paul Murray's in his late 30s, early 40s, something like that.
Yeah, whatever.
It doesn't matter. Miranda Devine, same sort of deal. And it could just be that they're thinking about that sort of thing, moving into politics. I don't know.
Well, I guess it's about expanding their profile, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, no matter what that looks like. So.
Yeah.
Documented to overturn the election result. Let's go to Miranda. She's on the job. Let's see what she makes of it. Miranda, is this over or is it not?
Well, not according to Donald Trump. He's sticking around, and not according to the tens of thousands of his supporters who turned out to Washington, D.C. on the weekend to protest this election. So just in fact, yesterday we had in Georgia 2,600 uncounted votes were discovered from one of these Dominion voting machines, and most of those, you won't be surprised to hear, were for Donald Trump. So there's still a ways to go. There are a lot of lawsuits wending their way through.
That is a lie.
No, it's true.
No, that is a lie. What she said was a lie.
What part of it's a lie?
She said they were from this Dominion vote counting machine, and that is not what happened.
No, there was a mistake. There was a mistake made by those counting.
Yeah,
that machine, which were picked up, which were Republicans.
To one side,
yeah,
and then they forgot about them.
That's right.
And that's what it wasn't. Somebody deliberately taking them. It wasn't the machine switching votes or anything like that, which is what she's saying there, right? These votes. One of the election officials and stack them the way they're supposed to, and they pile them up as Donald Trump's and Joe Biden's and Chris Jorgensen's, and then you put them over to one side.
Yeah, they
and this
forgot to
one
put them
batch was
back.
forgotten. They
Yeah,
forgot to
that's
bring
right.
them back.
But
So
it
what she
wasn't
did is a
about.
lie.
Well, it wasn't about the machine. It was true about the mistake that
Yeah.
was made. But
Yeah.
she's turned it into something else. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
And she knows
so
it's not
kind of-
true. I'm certain of that, because she'll have seen the same evidence, the same reports that you and I have seen.
Well, one would think so, but maybe she doesn't watch CNN and MSNBC. Maybe she just
no.
watches Fox News.
Yeah, she watches faux news and state television as CNN of state taking the calling it.
And Newsmax and AOM and these
Yeah.
other wonderful networks that peddle this crap. So, I guess my point was that she was true about the votes missing. It was untrue about where they went and how they were recounted. And I think at the end of the day, they were Trump leaning, but they were like just 1,200 votes or something. It was It was the number of votes required out of that stack would have to have been about 300% more in order to make any difference in the actual vote.
Even if every one of those votes in that stack had gone against Biden, if all 2,400, whatever it was, had been for Donald Trump, Biden still wins by a majority of about 8,000 or 9,000.
Yeah. So it wasn't going to change anything anyway.
When that
so
was
what
called,
really
when they called the result today, I think that was around about 12:30. They called it. The Biden's lead was about 14,500 votes.
Yep. Hey, how's the story about Donald Trump calling up those people that were certify the elections in Georgia?
Okay.
Have you still seen that story?
I have. And these two Republican election officials said that they wanted to withdraw their certification. And it was pointed out to them that once the certification has been made, you cannot legally change it. If they attempt to, they have broken the law. And I think it was Ben Ginsburg this morning was saying on Ben Ginsburg is the Republican lawyer who worked on the case that got George W. Bush elected in 2000. So he's not a Biden supporter, but he was saying that Trump calling them is a federal offense.
All right. So
there's another one to tick on that he can be prosecuted for.
So that's just another one that needs to be added to the list of all the potential criminal cases that he's going to have more criminal cases. He's going to spend the rest of his life in jail if all of these he's found guilty of all of these.
And I hope the only TV station he gets when he's in jail is CNN.
The ultimate punishment.
Yeah, cruel and unusual punishment, so it won't happen
for him. Yeah, and hopefully the only commentator he gets is Jake Tapper.
Yeah. Oh no, Don Lemon.
Oh, Don Lemon. Oh, that's right. He hates Don Lemon. That's
Don
right.
Lemon.
Yeah,
I wonder what's the difference between Don Lemon and Jake Tapper.
Well, one's got a different coloured skin, I think.
Yeah.
I think that might be it. I reckon.
Yeah, I think so.
And one's gay and the other isn't. Oh, two things, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I am concerned about his sons. Not Don's, Trump's sons, and
Trump's.
Their own sexualities in question.
Uday and Usay, you mean?
That's the one.
Yeah.
They're the
one that I used to feel for was Barron. Right, the youngest son.
Yeah. I believe the other two are quite barren as well.
Yeah.
I do feel for him because I know that for kids growing up in the White House, it's not a very easy experience. I mean, it wasn't an easy experience for the two Obama girls.
No.
I'm grateful. I don't know what. Funnily enough, I don't know what the other mothers are like for the other kids, but I'm assuming and I'm hoping that Melania is better than what the others are. But who knows? I don't even know what she's like as a mum.
Well, they're certainly going to have a classy lady in the White House in January. with Jill Biden.
Oh, yeah, she's sensational, isn't she?
Yeah,
Well, they had a
yeah.
pretty classy woman in there before.
With Michelle
Michelle,
Obama. Yeah,
yeah, I
Yeah.
love Michelle. I think she's fabulous.
yeah.
So,
I'm not going to bag Melania Trump.
no,
You know,
I
she-
know. Actually, to
she-
be honest, I know
she didn't
very
vote for-
little. I know very little about her, apart from the
I mean,
fact that she
what do I
married-
know? I know a few things about her. I know that when she entered the United States, she did it on a visa that didn't entitle her to work, and she immediately went out and found a job. Right, so she broke the law within weeks of getting into the United States. She broke the law, but she was granted citizenship, granted residency, granted citizenship.
which is fair enough. Good on her.
Which she's a legal resident. She,
Yep.
you know,
She just
got-
married. She just married an illegal man.
yeah.
What can we say?
Yeah.
Let's hear what else they have to say.
System.
When I saw that Sidney Powell interview, Miranda, she made a very valid point, a tough woman. She said, I don't say anything I can't prove. Now, Republicans everywhere are saying they were prevented from observing the mail-in ballots being processed.
Oh, come on. We have to comment about that.
That is a
She's-
lie again.
Oh God, she doesn't say anything she can't prove. I've seen
She-
her. I've
yeah.
seen her interviewed, man, and she just spouts conspiracy theories
Yeah.
with no evidence at
Yeah,
all.
I can prove this.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
prove it. I can prove this. Well, okay, prove it. I can prove this. Right, and then Jones there, with yeah,
We can't explain it, mate. Seriously,
No.
we just can't explain it. So let's not.
dementia.
That's it.
Some are forced to use binoculars. Now, surely if the vote isn't scrutineered or inspected, that
That's
means
a
those
lie.
votes would all have to be recounted, wouldn't they?
Look, that's certainly what Rudy Giuliani is contending, and that's one of many cases. That's a strong one because that, several 100,000 ballots were counted without any proper scrutineering. And, it'll be up to a judge to decide whether or not that was legal or not and whether those votes should be discarded. I mean, there are a number of avenues that they're trying, but whether or not these will be enough, Alan, to actually overturn the result of this election, I don't know.
What do you see the attitude of the various courts in all of this? What is the attitude there?
Well, look, they've not had much luck so far. Judges have been throwing out their cases, and they'll probably end up at the Supreme Court. They do have some time. They have until December 14 before the electors finally meet for that constitutional vote on who is the president.
I have to. We'll let Amanda go at that, but I have to agree that at least she was behaving more like a journalist there than what she has in the past. I mean, she
except that what she was saying was wrong.
Well, apart from that, she was saying that they've got lots of cases before the court, and some of them being turfed out. Well, we now know they've all been turfed out.
All of them so far have been turfed out.
Yep, that's right.
She is not being a journalist. She is lying because she knows, the same as you do, same as I do, because she'll have seen the same stuff that we've seen, right? That, for example, in Pennsylvania, Trump put a lawsuit in which said no observers were allowed, no Republican observers were allowed in the that place where they were counting all the votes, right? And their lawyer was asked by the judge, were there any observers there? And he says, well, yeah, there were some. Yeah, they were in there. They were, Trump said they were outside the building. And the lawyer, his own lawyer in that courthouse said, actually, we had observers in there. So the judge said, what's the problem? And they said, well, we want to stand closer. And the judge said, well, stand closer. Did you ask if you could stand closer? No, we didn't. Why not? Right? So what she's saying there, she'll have seen the same reports. Even on Fox News, they had that sort of thing. She'll have seen the same reports that you and I have seen, and she knows that what she's saying is false. She's a liar, and I'm happy to call her a liar.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah.
And
I won't
if she
disagree with
if she thinks the evidence is strong, right, then she must think that piece of soggy spaghetti would be enough to tie up an ocean liner to a jetty.
Okay.
She's got
We
no
can work
idea.
I can work with that analogy if you care to.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to move on to violence in the US. And this is...
sorry, I've just thought of something else. Tens of thousands of people at a rally in Washington the other day. Trump said it was 1 million.
That's
right. The park rangers, whatever they call it, in where this rally was held, said it was just a tad over 10,000. It was about 10,500 or something like that.
In Washington.
In Washington. Yeah. And she's saying it's tens of thousands, which implies 20,000 or more.
Yeah, or it's supposed to be the MAGA million rally or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, all in one march.
Yeah. They're trying to outdo the. Remember the Women's March after Trump got elected?
Yeah,
and they had a lot of women, not just women, but a lot of people marching on that as well, objecting to Trump, and so they wanted to try and emulate the same sort of thing.
Yeah,
it didn't happen.
Yeah,
which is an indicator, incidentally, that there's not the same sort of motivation, I guess, as we would have expected.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just hear what Mr. Murray has to say.
Now, I want to show you CNN in full roar. CNN in full roar that was blaming the people who were getting beaten up at those rallies in Washington. I'll ask our team to try and find that close. I want to play it here, right? But unbelievable, right? So you know and you saw last night the violence that was put upon the people who decided to turn up and say...
Hold on, I love that strategy. You know and you saw what happened last night.
Yeah.
So I love this way that they try to convince people that you're agreeing with them. Know. Yeah, because you know that I'm right, and you know what you saw. Yeah. Even though the instances that he's about to show are a series of instances, I think that's what he's showing. A series of instances where there's violence. Now, I don't condone any violence. Don't give a shit at what side it's from. Just don't condone it. Right? No. So, but to make out that one side is more violent than another is unhelpful. And it's just focusing on the violence. And one of the reasons, I guess media is at fault with this, because one of the issues for me is that that when you play peaceful protests, they don't seem to resonate the same as beating the shit out of somebody or burning down a building. No. So...
Fireman rescues cat from tree does not attract the news. Fireman rescues cat from tree, then strangles it. That would get in the news.
That's it. So there's I do have an issue with the way they kind of couch things and the reasons why. All news networks do it, not just Fox or whatever.
They support the president. They don't believe the electoral process has been a fair one here, and they didn't bring the violence. But as always, those that want to run the anti-protest are the ones, well, they end up turning up. They're the ones who end up kicking heads, and apparently it is the victim's fault. This is the crap that ran on the cable news channels in America after the violence that I showed you last night.
He is, celebrating his supporters who engage in street battles.
Those supporters, those very same people who claim to be the party of law and order, are now, just like Kyle Rittenhouse did when he crossed state lines and killed 2 people, are now engaging in violence.
Rita.
Now, I have no idea what that was supposed to prove.
No. And I'll tell you one thing as well. What Paul Murray there is being... there's a... How can I say this? There's a habit that people like Paul Murray, I see it a lot when I'm debating online as well, doing what they call cherry picking. He's picked out one thing that one person said, which he's saying, look, this person over on the left is saying this. He ignored Scott Jennings, who worked for George W. Bush. He's a Republican, been a Republican all of his life, who backed up what the guy with the beard said. Right? He ignored him completely. And Murray is just saying, look what the left are saying. Well, there's a guy from the right wing of politics saying exactly the same thing.
But he took not even a 5-second grab.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that was, but you know, it'd be like if someone made a statement, you know, I think violence. Oh, right, let's just take out the I think violence bit, and let's not talk about what he actually thinks about violence. But you know, so that's probably a poor example. But I'm just saying that you can pick stuff up that supports your argument, but is way out of context with what was initially said.
Yeah, it's called cherry picking. You go through whatever it is, a video, you go through the book, you know, and you pick out the little bit that seems to support what you are saying, and you ignore the context, what follows it.
Yeah.
Right. An example I use all the time is that in people say the eye is too complex to have evolved, and then they quote Charles Darwin, saying exactly that. They ignore the very next paragraph where Charles Darwin then goes on to explain how he thinks the eye could have evolved. Right. That is cherry picking. It's saying I want this bit, and I'm ignore the rest. Paul Murray's doing exactly the same thing there, because I saw those interviews, right? And as I said, Scott Jennings backed up. He said exactly the same sort of things as the guy to his left. I had to think, you know, where he was sitting there. He said exactly the same sort of things. He blamed the violence on right-wing people coming in there, right? And Paul Murray doesn't play that. He just plays the left-wing guy saying it.
Well, where are we playing the stacks of videos of guys in military outfits with guns?
They're all obviously liberals.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That we're not seeing them and we're not identifying them as Antifa.
It says a lot. It says a lot that an awful lot of the groups that support Trump and support the Republican Party, a lot of them, like the Proud Boys, for example, have been declared to be terrorists, domestic terrorists by the FBI, Trump's FBI, you know, and they support Trump. And we're expected to believe by Paul Murray and Miranda Devine and Alan Jones and Rowan Dean, people like that, we're expected to believe them when they say it's all the left that's doing all of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
These guys in their camo gear, carrying their AR-15s and with pistols strapped on their hips and things like that, we're expected to believe that they are the victims.
Well, they're there just to ensure that the Constitution is followed and that their rights and liberties are upheld. That's why
I wonder how many of them actually know the Constitution. Apart from
probably none of them have ever read it.
Apart from the Second Amendment.
Yeah, the rights to carry the things that they carry. Okay, let's just hear what more.
If it wasn't broken before, it is absolutely underlined broken now, right? Which is the American media who want to pretend Black Lives Matter, peaceful protests, despite the fact that there's fire that's happening behind them, right? And then the Trump supporters being hit by people while they're going back to their hotels, all right? They're not antagonising anyone. They have rallied and they're walking back from the Supreme Court back to their hotels. They get king hit, they get stuff poured upon them, they get fireworks lobbed into restaurants where they were eating dinner.
Where's the video of that? Are there any videos? Do you know?
Not that I've seen. I'm not saying they don't exist, but
I don't know if they exist either. I just haven't seen any either. Is that because we're watching too much left-wing media?
Oh, obviously, you know, we need to be watching Breitbart or Infowars or something like that.
Oh my God!
Which I think is where Paul Murray's getting his ideas from.
Oh, good point. Good point. Let's hear what else he has to say.
And apparently, that's their fault, and it's Trump's fault. This is madness.
Well, it's mass victim blaming, it's gaslighting, it's absolute, utter bullshit by CNN because as we have seen and you've shown, there's video footage of this stuff. We saw it after the Republican National Convention. Remember that when the attendees were walking back to the hotel and they were being harassed and monstered, sometimes assaulted.
Can you tell me how in any of that video footage we even know which side is which? Who's who?
Fireworks are being set off by somebody, it must be the left that's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the only ones who have access to fireworks anyway.
Yeah, that is their attitude. If it is the left that's doing it, at least they're not firing bullets, which the right wing have done.
That's true.
Right? In that guy who went from Illinois into was it Wisconsin or Minnesota, and shot a couple of people, killing one of them, and just a couple of months ago.
That's right. Bizarre.
Right? And walking down the street carrying his weapon, and his mother had driven him up there. He's firing bullets. These guys, if it is people on the left that's doing it, they're using fireworks.
Yep. Okay,
Where's Paul Murray and Rita Panahy criticising the guys with their guns?
Oh, I think this argument Rita offers is just an argument you have when you're not having an argument.
That's Paul Murray as well.
Yeah.
Alan Jones, Miranda Devine.
And then what happened on the weekend was even worse than that, because there was less police presence and the violence was far worse. And it's quite frankly fortunate that people didn't die. And it wasn't just the guy who got, sucker punched from behind and then had his head kicked repeatedly whilst he was unconscious on the ground and had his phone stolen. There were kids. I saw several videos of young children who had marched with their family, crying, terrified, being intimidated and attacked by these activists. One of the kids actually fell over trying to get away from them. I mean, these are children, young children. I saw women getting hit in the head from behind, elderly people, again, being spat on, being struck with objects. We saw the footage of people.
Where did she see all this?
My best guess would be after she'd popped a couple of LSD tabs.
I
have got no idea because I watch a lot. I mean, she's saying it's on CNN. I watch a lot of CNN, and
wasn't she saying that she saw this? Was she saying she saw this when she was in the US? I missed that bit.
Yeah.
So
I've got
what
no
evidence
idea
have
where
you
she
got?
saw it.
Did you photograph it? Did you film it while you were there? Did you? Did you comfort these people that were being assaulted?
Did she go and ask them, "Are you left wing or right wing?"
Yeah, exactly.
Right? What's your politics? She, if she was there, did she actually ask questions like that? Did she make any attempt to find out, or did she just assume, well, that person's black, therefore he must be left wing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Paul Murray is not going to put up the story about a Black Lives Matter march that took place in London, where a bunch of Black Lives Matter people did attack this guy who was a former cop. And who came to his rescue? A black dude who was taking part in that march. And he's now up as one of the CNN heroes for stepping in, putting his own life at risk against these extremists, who they were extremists. I'm not going to deny that. He put his own life at risk to rescue this guy that was a former cop, carried him away from it and tended to him. You're not going to get that sort of thing mentioned by Paul Murray, because all he's going to focus on is the dirty eggs, the naughty ones.
So we won't play any more of Rita because I'm a bit tired of all of them. But I think it was a really interesting conversation, though, nevertheless, Avery, about what is it that we believe is truth? How do we determine and define truth? Is someone, if someone has a set of facts that they believe are truth, are they lying, or are other people, do we name call people as liars, or do we just identify their behaviour as being untruthful?
Yeah.
I think it's been, I'm just recapping a little bit on what we discussed earlier in case people have forgotten. But I think there's a lot of valuable stuff in some of the stuff we've talked about.
Yep. Yeah, I've spent an awful long time, like 50 years, studying that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How do we know if something is true? How do you recognize a fallacious argument? Right. It's easier in a structured debate to recognize fallacious arguments. In a conversational arena, if just two people have a conversation, people still throw out fallacious arguments. Most people don't realize they're doing so.
No.
Right.
No.
and most people don't know how to, don't recognise the fallacious argument when they see it. I mean, I've not put any number there, and I'm being conversational. I said most people.
But
right?
isn't it interesting?
That itself is fallacious.
Yeah.
Because I'm not giving you, I'm not pointing you to a number to say, this research shows that 73% of people in a conversation make fallacious arguments and don't know it.
Well,
right?
how many people do you know? You
73%? I don't know.
You don't have
But
got data. Haven't got data on that. Therefore, it can't be fact.
I haven't got it to hand, but I could certainly find some.
Right, but it's hard to have an argument that is based on fact if you don't have the facts before you, Avery.
Yes, that's right.
So
that's why I pointed out that what I was saying was fallacious.
That's right.
Because I made a generalized statement. Most people don't. And my experience is that most people I interact with in discussions and debates on something, not a formal debate, but when I've interacted with them, they don't know. My experience has been that they will throw out a fallacious argument and they don't realize that it's fallacious, and they don't understand why it's fallacious.
Yep, I understand that. Okay, we've been, you're not going to believe this, but we've been talking for an hour. Isn't that amazing? But we've got to be careful, mate, because we might just talk so long that we just continue throughout the night.
Yeah.
In the morning, people will tune in and find that we're still having a chat.
Yeah. Maybe.
And so, look, mate, thanks for the conversation. I just want to let people know that if you are watching this, and that you can subscribe to the channel, which we'd really like you to do, and we'd like you to ring the bell so that you can be informed of future chats. But thanks for being with us, and Avery, thank you very much. You're looking wonderful sitting there under your halo. It's a green halo. I don't know what significance of that is.
Yeah, that's because I'm all for fighting climate change.
Climate change. I thought you were going to say that. And I just wish to be able to say to everybody that's viewing, look after yourself and be safe and take care. Catch everybody. Bye.